Alright, just to let you guys know, this video will be containing spoilers for Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episodes 11 and 12. I have a timestamp in the description for when that starts and when that ends. Alright, let's get it on with the tutorial. Hello, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ryan, or RGR Productions, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made my cardboard ARC Trooper Jesse helmet from Season 7 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. I'm really excited for this build, and I hope you guys are too. Let's get on with it. So here is the base visor piece for my ARC Trooper Jesse helmet. And I'm making the animated style from the Clone Wars episode, so you can tell a considerable difference from a regular Phase 2 visor that would be in Episode 3, for say. So for example, first of all, you have these angled bits down here, which I just did some V-groove undercuts, which is just cutting the cardboard so you don't cut all the way through, just enough so you can bend it and leave an impression on the other side, and then just fill it with some hot glue on the inside. Also, the visor is a much more angular. As you can see, these are sharp corners, and these are also sharp corners. But on an Episode 3 one, they'd be rounded. So if you're making this, you're more than welcome just to make these as which version you want. You can make it in an Episode 3 version. I'm going to be making the animated version. So now I'm going to cut into a time-lapse of me making the chin. Also, one thing to keep in mind is, from a front view, you can see that the bottoms, where these curve in, cut down a little bit. So when you're making yours, just make sure that those parts stick down. It's now time for the time-lapse of me attaching this to the main top piece, which is just a 26-inch piece of cardboard, by the way, with some supports in the middle. So, I'll do that, and in the time-lapse you'll see how I'm going to do the chin, which is a little bit different than my Commander Cody. If any of you guys are new here, the glue that I'm using is hot glue, so just keep that in mind if you're going to make this. It's one of the best glues for gluing cardboard projects like this together. So once I had that visor piece nice and glued on to the frame of the dome, what I did is I started working on that grill piece at the mouth. This is pretty much the same as my Captain Rex one and my Commander Cody one, except with this one, since it's the animated style, it has this one V-groove undercut right in the middle. So you might be able to see that in this time-lapse. If you can't, you'll probably see it in some of the photos, either in the thumbnail or later in the video. Now I spent a bunch of time trying to get this piece right because it was very particular and not very easy. It was pretty easy to get on my other helmet, but since this visor piece kind of comes down and then the mouth shape is different, I just thought I needed to make the piece a lot more refined than just one simple curve. So I spent a long time working on this piece, but then at the end, I was very happy with it. Basically kind of goes flat at the edges and then it curves up toward the middle. Then once I had that piece done, I started working on the detail at the bottom. You want to gauge the distance that this piece is, the length of it, pretty accurately, or else it will look way too long and out of place. Then once I had the length correct, I just cut a little trapezoid shape out of the bottom, and that's very nice because it gives it the nice curved shape that you want. It's not exactly curved, it's more of an angular bit, so just keep that in mind. I started building up the walls for the cheeks, and then I went down onto the two tube breather things. I have no idea what they're called, but they're on every Stormtrooper and Clone Trooper helmet out there. What you can also see is next to that chin piece, I kind of continued that V-groove undercut from the visor piece all the way down to the chin. And if you look at a 3D model of the Clone Wars style Phase 2 helmet, you'll definitely see that. If you look at it kind of where the light's shining on it, you'll definitely see that contour shape. So I tried to get that, and I definitely nailed that on this one. Those two tube mandible things are built in the same way as my other ones. Basically, just take this long piece of cardboard, cut some slits in it just to taper it down into a smaller circular shape, and then glue it on. Again, as always, since with my Phase 2 from last year, it's just like this little house shape that goes on in the middle to hold it all together. And then I started working on the cheek pieces, so I just took some pieces of cardboard, glued them underneath that area, kind of on the side of the helmet, and then I just glued this piece of cardboard underneath that so it would be kind of resting against her face and about half an inch in. And then once I had that done, I mirrored it on the other side. One thing I've noticed with my past helmets is that the lip that goes around the back isn't always the ideal circular shape. So with this one, what I decided to do is on those side cheek panels,
I decided to cut little semicircles and then just glue those on, so like 2 underneath those cheeks, and then I'd actually wrap those pieces with cardboard so that the piece of cardboard would always have the same uniform shape. And what I actually did is I mirrored that piece all the way around the back lip, and that actually gave it a very nice uniform look. So yeah, I recommend doing this on any of my helmets, not just this one, if you're going to make any of them. Started on the ear pieces after that, so it's pretty simple. It's just basically a rectangle with the top rounded off, and then you just glue it onto the side and then fill in the pieces underneath. I used a piece of cardboard with the top peeled off so it would fit nicely. This is actually a very good technique for getting nice, smooth, clean edges without seeing the corrugation. I do this on the spots where it's necessary, where like you'll basically be looking like at the bottom of the chin, around the 2 front grill pieces, and then of course at the ears, because you'll be looking at those a lot. Then I took a piece of cardboard and wrapped this around the back. If you want to, you can make this a episode 3 style, but since this is like purely from the Clone Wars TV show, I decided to make the TV show style, which is fairly different, at least on the back side, from the episode 3 style. As you can see, there's a bar that goes all the way across the top. On the episode 3 style, it kind of goes across the bottom and then meets up at the middle. So I just noticed that, and I think it's pretty funny how they decided to change it, but honestly, I think I like the animated style better. And then after I had that top bit done, I took a piece of cardboard and wrapped it all the way around from ear to ear. Doesn't matter if there's a seam in the middle, if your piece of cardboard, let's say, isn't long enough or something like that. Just make sure that it goes from that about 1/2 inch thick piece on the back of the ear all the way around to the other side. If there's a seam in the middle, that's okay because it's getting covered up by that back detail. So you can see me here just using that piece of cardboard and gluing it in slots. This actually worked pretty well since it doesn't need to be that big of a piece of cardboard. I was running a little bit low at a small piece, and then I thought, oh wait, this middle back is covered up, so that doesn't matter. Just make sure to put a little structure piece there to prevent that from happening. You can see me here, again using the same technique as I did in the beginning, cutting those semicircle pieces, and this is a very recommended technique. I highly recommend you do this. It works super well for getting that nice uniform shape, and it keeps you in line from wandering with the pieces you're making. I think it works really well. So I just glued on like 10 of those, maybe 15 on the whole back side, just to fill it in enough to where there wouldn't be more than 1 inch spacing between each one, maybe even less than that. And then I would wrap pieces of cardboard from the top edge all the way around to the bottom edge, making sure they're matching up with that curve shape I've made. Now if you wanted to, you could make it more of a curve or more of a shallower curve. I just decided to go right in the middle. I started wrapping my way all the way around, and once I got here, I got pretty excited because I hadn't seen my helmets looking this round before. It was honestly pretty simple and a pretty repetitive process, but it's also fairly easy to do. So if you're going to make this, just make sure to do this technique. I just discovered it, and I think it's really good with the support pieces. I've seen people do this with foam before, but I haven't seen anyone do it with cardboard. Since with foam, you can just curve it around, and these are just support pieces to stop it from caving in. With cardboard, it really won't cave in, so I think this is pretty cool. Now once you have that whole back piece done, you can take another piece of cardboard that's basically a rectangle with 2 tiny little slivers cut off the edges. Make sure to glue this piece on in the middle, and then once you have that flat piece on, you can look at it from a side profile, hold up a piece of cardboard, and trace out the remaining shape, and cut it out, peel off the top piece of cardboard, and glue that on. Then once you have this done, repeat on the other side, and the top. Alright, here it is. This is the spoilers for the Star Wars The Clone Wars episodes 11 and 12. So if you haven't seen that, please check the description for the timestamp on when this segment ends. Basically what I'm going to be doing is just showing you how to build the dome. So it's the same exact process as my other videos, so you can check that out. I've really enjoyed the Siege of Mandalore, the 4 episodes that came out about it. I'll be talking about the most recent 2, because those are probably the best ones, the 12th one being the best out of all of them. Really liked how in the 11th one, when Order 66 was executed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was astonished. And then when Ahsoka removes Rex's inhibitor chip, so now they're working together to get off the ship, that was great. And then in episode 12, when Rex has to contemplate about killing his brothers to save his Jedi general, and then they're getting off the ship, Darth Maul destroys the hyperdrive, so they're crashing down towards this moon, and it's this huge fight between all the clones, and including Jesse, and then Rex and Ahsoka. And I was really sad to see, like, you know, when the floor dropped, I thought that Jesse was done, but he actually lived through that, And then later on, once they get off the ship, you see his grave, which signifies that he died in the crash, which was pretty emotional for me. I was not ready to see that, but it was a very good shot, very well done, and it gives a nice ending off to this character. And then when Ahsoka drops her lightsaber, and then it fades to like 4 or 5 years later in the Imperial Age, that was very great. How you see all the snowtroopers and stormtroopers walking by, and then you see Darth Vader, you hear his breathing when he walks by, and he goes and picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber, which is obviously what she dropped. And I was like, whoa, because that was so crazy. And then when it ends, you see in the reflection of the deteriorating clone trooper helmet, Darth Vader walking away. And that was like, to me, an analogy of how the Clone Wars are old and they're behind us. But it's given me some of the best memories ever, and it's my favorite TV show. So I'd love to hear what you guys think of those last 2 episodes, heck, even the whole season. So if you have like a reaction or something to the episode that you want to post down in the comments, go ahead. I might even respond to it, because I really enjoyed these last 2 episodes. They're some of the best Star Wars content out there. Way better than any of the sequels and 2 of the prequels. Obviously, I think it was great how it was paralleling episode 3, how they're going on at the same time. And just the whole atmosphere of all the episodes was so great and so strong, I really liked it. Now back to the build, you can see me here making the dome. It's basically the same process as any of my other videos. I really don't need to go over it, it's just that one piece of cardboard mainly in the middle, and then you just cut some slits in it and fold it together. Then you just glue that on and then cut those pieces that fill in the tiny side gaps. And then once you have that done, you can stick those on. And then all you have to do is cut out the trench at the back, which is fairly easy. You can see me marking that out here. So now, after this, what I need to do is spackle the whole helmet, which includes all the dome and all of the gaps that you wouldn't want to see. Note, I did not spackle those cheek bits because they're supposed to be there. So now, after all the construction on this helmet was done, I started spackling. And it's all dry, so I'm going to show you all the spots I put spackle on. Of course, as usual, I spackled the whole dome, and all of the seams that needed spackling, like all these ones around the front. I did avoid these seams at the front on either side, because if you look at the actual model, there's actually some seams there, so I wanted to keep that on my model. And then the whole back area is spackled, so that's going to get sanded. And that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to sand it with some 220 grit sandpaper, and then I'm going to use some filler primer to prime it, and then I can go ahead and paint it.
Now I have Jesse's insignia all masked out on this top bit, and I also have the gray grill masked off here. So now what I'm going to do is paint the rest of it white, except for the dome. The fin needs to be white, this whole area down here and here needs to be white. And then also on the back, right now, this is the day before Season 7, Episode 11 airs. So I have no idea what the back of this looks like. I've seen some conflicting ideas where there's either all blue, or the back of it has a white stripe that continues up and on top of this piece. So right now I think I'm just going to paint the whole thing white, just in case if tomorrow an episode comes out which shows the part that I'm looking for. So yeah, I'll cut back once I have this all painted. Now that I am done masking off all the details that will stay white, and also this Republic insignia up here, and then at the back there's just one tiny piece. So now everything else on the helmet will remain blue, so I'm going to paint that with some deep blue Rust-Oleum spray paint. Also, I have some of these side details that I cut out, just with some thin cardboard, so I'm going to prime these and then paint them with the same blue color, and they will overlap this piece on the side. So, I'll go ahead and paint that. Here's what the helmet looks like once it's all unmasked and weathered, and I think it looks pretty good. I didn't show weathering in this video because, of course, on my DIY tips and tricks series, I have a video out on that. Also, one quick thing I did is instead of dry brushing silver like on the front of these pieces down here, I dry brushed white all over the blue on the helmet, and that gave it a very nice chipped paint effect. So now the last thing to do is to glue into the visor, and then I'll cut to the outro.
This video was really fun to make, and I highly recommend that you make any Phase 2 helmet that I've made, because they're really fun in the build process, and just with how they look at the end, it gets you really excited. I also tried a new weathering technique with this, with putting black paint in all the cracks, so I also recommend that you do that. Again, if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments down below. Next, I'll be making Crosshair. This has been RJR Productions, signing off. Till next time.